My name is Olivier Hoedeman. I work with Corporate Europe Observatory. We are a watchdog group based here in Brussels, and we are monitoring the role of lobbying in how the EU makes its decisions. We are very concerned about a lot of problems that exist with the role of lobbying as it happens at this moment here in Brussels. There's a very large number of paid lobbyists that are working on a daily basis here in Brussels to influence the EU's decisions. They play a very strong role, a very dominant role, and a big majority of those lobbyists represent industry or different business interests. At least 2/3 of the lobbyists here work for big business, and those who try to campaign for environment, for the rights of people in the south, for consumer protection and so on, are almost always outnumbered by the industry lobbyists. Industry is able to spend much more on lobbying, and also they very often have better access to decision makers, to the European Commission, to governments, and to the members of the European Parliament as well. And the combination of those basic facts about how things work here in Brussels, in many cases it results in industry getting far too much power, really getting a strong grip on EU decision making. So those are some issues we should be aware of that are really worrying, and we're trying to expose examples of that and alert people across Europe that democracy is really at risk with the way things are going now. And now we have the European Parliament elections coming, and it's very important to be aware that these problems also are very visible in the European Parliament itself, and the way the members of the European Parliament, many of them, reach their decisions and the way they make their choices for voting. So the industry lobbyists are very, very active, focusing on the Parliament. They know that the European Parliament has a lot of power today after the different treaty changes, and they work very hard and put a lot of pressure on the MEPs. So MEPs often feel they're really being bombarded by industry lobbyists that want them to vote according to the industry demands. And often indeed that lobbying pays off. It determines to a large extent the outcome. We have many, many examples of that. So of course in the European Parliament there are good MEPs who care about the public interest, who care about democracy, but there is also really a problem of many MEPs being too close to big business and giving industry far too easy access and often just acting on their behalf. And we've had some pretty shocking examples of that in the last few years. So just in the autumn of last year, there was a Belgian MEP called Louis Michel, and he was exposed on Belgian television of he was found to have submitted more than 200 amendments, so proposed changes to the EU's law about data privacy. So the law around how Facebook and Amazon and so on can use your personal data that you leave on the internet. And this MEP was not known to have any opinion about this issue, but suddenly had submitted 200 or more amendments that were very much along the industry line. And he admitted when he was asked by journalists that yes, he had not written those amendments himself. It was amendments that were written by 2 industry lobby groups and had been submitted in his name. So basically industry writing the proposed changes to this EU law. Now, this MEP, when he was challenged, he blamed his assistant. And that is very doubtful if it was really his assistant. Only there was to blame if the MEP didn't know about this at all. But this was the story of the MEP to escape this very embarrassing situation. Then we decided to send a complaint to the European Parliament, because it is really an undemocratic situation when an MEP submits 200 amendments drafted by industry lobbyists. And the complaint was investigated by the Parliament's Ethics Committee. They looked into, has this MEP violated the Code of Conduct for MEPs? And they came to the conclusion that yes, that was really a step too far. He had really gone too far. He had violated the Code of Conduct. And they suggested to the Parliament's President, Martin Schultz, who is a socialist MEP, that he should take action, that he should impose sanctions on this MEP who had violated the code of conduct. Unfortunately, what happened was nothing. The Parliament President, Martin Schultz, decided not to take any action. He said, the MEP has apologized, it's been in the media, it's all clear, we don't need to do anything. That's a very dangerous line to take, because it means that the MEPs get the signal that if you violate the code of conduct, nothing happens, that you can get away with this. And that is very dangerous for the ethics standards in the parliament. And of course, in this case, it's very dangerous for a situation where big business has far too much influence and has many MEPs that are just acting as their allies, and that needs to be challenged. So the fact that Martin Schulz refused to act on this violation of the code of conduct, just like he's refused to act on other violations of the code of conduct, that's worrying. That's bad for the European Parliament, and also it's worrying because he's now the lead candidate to become the next president of the European Commission. And for the president of the European Commission, it's really important that you have somebody who takes a strong line and says, I'm here to defend the public interest and not to give in to industry lobbyists. So that's not a good start for this candidate. And for the European Parliament elections, it's really important that we get a lot of MEPs elected who want to defend the public interest and who don't give in to industry lobbyists the way many MEPs do today. That's why it's crucial what happens in these elections. We need MEPs who stand up for the public interest and for democracy and who make the right choices. That's the only way to improve things and to safeguard democratic decisions that work for people.